This is what we do and why we do it, baby. We rollin'!
Covering MMA from all over the world, this is the premier stop for all your combat sports needs. MMA Junkie Radio, the only show broadcasting live from the Mandalay Bay Resort and Casino in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. The lights are on and the mics are hot. It's time to get your MMA fix, junkies. Take it away, Big John.
Gorgeous George and Goes, are you ready? Junkie Nation, are you ready? Well, let's get it on.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, our ace co-host. Back east, producing the show, it's Andre the Giant.
Hey,
what's up?
What's up?
Still keto as usual, bro.
Nah, man. You need to stop with that.
The keto, huh? How long has it been, Andre?
Full keto, it's been pretty much close to a month. Semi-keto since February, and I'm seeing belly fat getting trimmed out now. I'm happy.
You know, I got to give it to him. I mean, if it's working, if the scale says has a number that keeps going lower and lower, great. I think he's depriving himself of some important nutrients. But look, I'm not in the position to point. That's why I always say so-and-so said, meaning fighter, pro fighter in good shape. Not me in the shape of an oval. But he's happy, so I'm just going to let him be.
As of today?
Yeah.
How about after today's show? Let him have it one
But the real
show.
gains is what I'm gaining with my girl. The reason why I'm doing this diet. So I'm happy as hell.
What is she doing for you, though?
A whole lot of things that I would
giving up
rather
anything?
just keep it between me and her.
Oh, okay, I get it. All right, yeah, I'm on board then.
Andre. All right. Well, good luck to Andre, the producer. He's happy. He's in love. You're in love, right, Andre, or are you just liking each other?
Well, we're in the in-between of the like and the love, so I'm liking where it's going.
Neither one of you has said, love you.
Actually, we did.
You did?
A couple beers in, and it happened, yeah.
How long have you been dating?
Let's see. Officially courting, I have to say, about a month.
God, and you're already at I love you?
Did I ever tell you what happened
Drunk
with
I
me
love yous.
and Laura on that?
Hold on a second. So who said it first?
It was like right around the same time. I don't know, because
Oh.
like we're how many daddy sodas in, so yeah.
All right, well, fuck. Can't hate on that. What were you saying, Gus?
Did I ever tell you what happened with me and Laura on that?
No, what happened?
Up until 6 months ago, the only Laura that's practically been in my life been Laura Sanko.
Mm-hmm.
And on was it Marco Polo? Laura dropped okay, love you, Brian Garcia, or something like that. And I said back, love you too, Laura Sanko. And I didn't even realize it. And because I'm just so used to, I always say Laura. If I say Laura, Sanko's coming right after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I called her Laura Sanko. I had to explain.
You said love you too, Laura Sanko?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't say that to Laura Sanko.
No. I told Laura Sanko, she was laughing her ass off.
Oh, it was the fact that when you say Laura, Sanko follows it.
Yeah.
And you couldn't have played it off?
No, it was
Like,
fine.
could you
Like,
have
she
played it
wasn't
off
like,
and
what
said-
the hell, or anything
You
like
just said
that.
Laura Psycho, haha, psycho, you're a psycho. You couldn't have played that off?
No, because you just repeat it again, and it says, I mean,
I was half asleep. Anything?
nah, I thought it was just easier just to tell the truth.
Yeah, I suppose. Okay. That happens. All right. Fun show today. In fact, we're going to get to one of our guests pretty quickly. Her name is Sarah Kaufman, a former, I almost said UFC, Strikeforce bantamweight champion. Fought in the UFC as well. Now she fights for the PFL. PFL is going to be starting up their next round of regular season fights, week 4 on July 11th. So Sarah Kaufman will be fighting on that fight card, and she'll be fighting Roberta Samad. Also, later on in the show, we added this one. This one's kind of late, so even the producers are like, who? It's Mike Afromowitz, who is a senior VP of Operations and Communications for Combate. What caught my eye was, for one, good friends of the show. Campbell McLaren is kind of like their public persona guy. But he's got history in the sport, all right? He was a right-hand man to Scott Coker when they were over at Strikeforce, and they were a small team. You ever heard Strikeforce say, hey, man, we literally had you can count on one hand the amount of people that used to do everything from marketing to PR to matchmaking to this to that. And now he's got, a huge team over at Bellator. But Mike Afromowitz was one of those valuable pieces that Scott Coker had. And so Mike also did some PR after the demise of Strike. Not the demise, what am I saying? After they were bought out by, we'll call him Zuffa, which is who owned the UFC at the time. And then Mike's actually he's got a history in Combate Americas as a co-founder as well. So what drew my attention was they're doing really, really well. They've been killing it on, the TV ratings, and they sent a press release that they're even beating the UFC and Bellator in, certain ratings that they have. Like, for example, the UFC prior to a pay-per-view, when they're on television or whatever. So we'll clarify a little bit more of that with Mike when he's on, and then we'll preview what's next for Combate. So joining us now on the hotline is Sarah Kaufman, our first guest, who will be fighting on July 11th against Roberta Samad, and it's PFL 2019, Week 4 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Welcome back to the show, Sarah. How you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. What about you guys?
Doing great, thank you. Thank you for asking. Not too many fighters ask us how we're doing.
She's always so cheerful, huh?
Yes, very, very polite.
I love talking to her.
Did you just, eat or wake up from a nap? Why are you so cheerful?
No, I just like what I do, I think, is the key. I just been teaching my kids' class. Now I have a ladies' class coming in here. So it's just a good day in Victoria at Zuma.
I saw that. Well, I not today, but I saw something about yesterday, some belt promotions, right, from the kids' class that you promoted 5 of them?
Yeah, some of the kids MMA class, 5 of them got new belts, and a bunch of them got striped up. So, it's always, I'm pretty harsh when it comes to grading. I don't think kids should just get, stripes and new belts for showing up. So some of those kids have been training for a couple years to get like their 3rd belt, and I think that's a great thing. And
what do you feel inside when you shout out their name and you see their faces light up? Like, what's the feeling, I guess, that you get? Is it like accomplishment or just sharing the joy?
Yeah, I'm just so proud for them, and I'm so happy for them because, as they say, even as adults, notoriously we're known for being quite hard graders when it comes to giving out new belts and new ranks. And I think it means so much more when that's the case because, they know that they didn't just get it for being here. They got it because they've been working hard and they've been showing progress and they've been learning the technique. And then they can really go home and be like, wow, Mom, look what I did. I have a new belt, and as I say, it might be like 2 years coming. It might be a full year before they get a new belt. And I think that's really important because it proves that they've earned it and they deserve it, and it's not just a participation ribbon.
Gotcha. All right. How many kids classes do you teach?
Throughout the week, I teach 6 classes, maybe private lessons as well. So it's a pretty busy schedule with the kids. And their age ranges from 3 to 5 is our little Bulldogs group, and then 6 to kind of 13, 14 is the next kids group, and then they go into the adult group after that. So it's full age range, and they're so cute.
Yeah, it sounds great. And I wanted to ask you, not to get too into your financials, but you've been in the sport for a while. You've got 25 professional bouts. You've been a world champion. Do you do this more for, is it just to help pay the bills, or is it more of like the fulfillment of working with kids?
Well, I teach, and that is my main job, and then fighting is the extra. I mean, over the years, I do not think that I would have been able to be in the position I'm at if I were just fighting. I've had so many stretches where I couldn't get fights, where I've been underpaid.
Gotcha.
So there really are very few years where I would have been making a comfortable living after you pay for training expenses and coaching fees and manager fees and have sponsors not pay you and have other people just take money. It really, up until, this $1 million hasn't been really at a lucrative stage where I could have confidently, fought full-time and just, gotten by or scraped by, I guess, as possible. But I want to be doing well and set up my future. And so I love what I do, and I love teaching at Zuma. But it's been my steady full-time job, the entire time that I've been fighting.
Sarah, I've heard many horror stories involving sponsors, involving managers, involving promotions stalling out a fighter or whatever. But you also added just people taking money from you. How did that happen? Or can you elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, there's just always instances. I think MMA is kind of a sport that's still quite unregulated, even though it's pretty well known and has a strong foothold in the sports scene.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the people, the peripheral people who work there, the managers, the people who arrange sponsorships, I've had numerous people where I've had sponsors contact me about sponsoring me, and I was like, okay, great. And then, someone who seemingly is just a peripheral person who's like, oh, I actually know them really well. I'll be the contact person. But don't pay me. I'm like, well, of course not. They've already offered me the money, yet then somehow that person gets paid. Then they give me a payment that's a cut of what it was supposed to be, even though I was the original contact. There's just a lot of sketchy, shady people. I had one manager who literally collected sponsorship money, told me companies weren't paying me, but it was fine. They'd eventually pay me. When I contacted the companies, turns out they had paid me, and he had just kept the money and was like in this big elaborate scheme and this big lie about how they were all going to pay in installments and yada, yada, yada. Turns out he just took the money and, just didn't pay me, just flat out lied about it. Stayed at my coach's house while he was in the midst of this lie before we caught him. So I probably had easily, I want to say 20 grand, if not close to 30 grand, just flat out taken and lied about.
That sucks. And I know you've been in this sport for a long time. I'm sure you could probably write a book because, for one, you faced all the top ladies that have ever fought, across the different divisions that you've been in. So you've mixed it up with some big names. You fought for all the big promotions, and it's pretty unique, to still be following your career. And you're only 33 years old, so you still have a lot more to give to this sport. But I guess I hadn't, we've done many of these interviews with many fighters, but we hadn't been down the road of the shadiness of MMA. So thanks for sharing that. But it sucks that you're out 20 grand too.
At this stage, it's just it's one of those things, and it's, while it would be nice to have that money, I'm also not someone who I need every single penny. $1 million is going to be awesome. But when everyone's like, what are you going to spend it on? I'm like, I'm not going to spend it on anything. I'm literally going to still, I have a couch that is a secondhand couch from a friend, and I have duct tape on it because it's cracking, and it's still so comfortable. I can afford a new couch. I just don't want a new couch. And so with $1 million, I'm probably going to be pretty much the same. So, if they're not going to stiff me, and I know PFL is going to pay me, and then I can, have a little nest egg and, some future and retirement plan set into place without having to stress about it.
There you go. All right, Sarah Kaufman's our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. She's going to be fighting on July 11th versus Roberta Samad at PFL 2019, Week 4. And she won her first fight, so she's up as one of the one of the leaders on the leaderboard on their standings. All right, Goes, what do you have for Sarah Kaufman?
So when it comes to PFL, it's not just about winning, it's accumulating those points, right? And I was thinking about something today, Sarah. You had that best case scenario where you finished in the first round, you got your 6 points. Can that sort of be addicting where the next round you want to do the same thing? So in other words, if you were to get a win, but say it were 3 points, would it almost mess with you and not feel like the first win did?
Every win I think feels a little bit different, but absolutely not. In this format, the ultimate goal is making it to the finals. So whatever pathway you take to get there, there's potential that someone lost their first fight or won their first fight, lost their second fight, and they make it to the finals. And I think of the 5 fighters, or 6 fighters who won last year, I think only 2 of them were undefeated in the season, which means that they lost one of their regular season fights. They won the ones that really matter, the quarters, the semis, and the finals. And so, I would be upset if I lost, and I am not planning on losing. However, it is also a stage where really the important part is getting into that postseason, and from that postseason, winning those matches that matter for us, the semifinals. For the men, it's the quarters and the semis. And then, of course, when you win the big match in the finals.
Sarah, what we've heard from other fighters that have gone through this is that first year is almost kind of like an experiment. It took them a while to figure out how to manage their body, their workouts. For you at this point, how has it been figuring out how to rest your body, rest your mind as well, and then get right back at it the way the PFL schedule is?
Yeah, so coming out of the first fight and having literally zero damage, it was a fast fight, I think my fastest fight ever, actually. And so with that, coming out with no damage, you want to go right back into training and you want to just get going and get pushing. And, the hard part really is that management of not overtraining, not injuring yourself in that process. And I think I've done a really good job of that. I've had, my team, my strength coach, my actual just martial arts coach, Adam Zuchek, managing those things and helping manage those things for me. But it was also a little bit helpful coming out to the PFL too, because that travel time, I wasn't training as much in those days where normally I would just be gunning it forward. And so it was actually a little bit of a favor to come out and be at the PFL too, be there live, get to kind of experience it from the other side, and also, just do, regular gym workouts, conditioning, light running, weights, and give the body a few days to actually come out of that. So the maintenance is super important, and I think that we've done a really good job of that, and I'm in a really good place coming into PFL 4, and would like to keep it that way moving forward into the semis and the finals.
So I've done this before with Sarah, I think, on the show. I just got to do it again. For those that are listening and you want to know a little bit more about Sarah, again, she's 21-4. She's a former Strikeforce bantamweight champion. She had a title defense, but look at the list of who she's beaten. Alexis Davis, Valerie Letourneau. Valerie just fought for a world title over at Bellator. Alexis has been in the UFC for a long time. Miesha Tate, she's a former bantamweight and UFC champ. Shayna Baszler, who's now like an NXT badass, and now obviously was a pioneer, in women's MMA. Roxanne Modafferi just competed for a world title. Liz Carmouche, Alexis Davis again, Leslie Smith a couple times, all UFC veterans, long-time UFC veterans. Jessica Rose Clark in the UFC. Pannie Canizat, who was in the finals of the featherweight. Remember they just unveiled that season?
Carmouche is fighting for a title now too.
Yeah, I mean it's such an impressive list, and so she's done this across Invicta, UFC, Strikeforce, and now PFL. Quite a career you've amassed, Sarah, and it's very, very impressive. And so then you come out and just lit it up. First round, stoppage, 6 points. I think I said leaders plural. You are the leader. And so my last question here, before we let you go, is did they explain to you the logic behind your next booking? Because you're the leader, yet you're fighting another one of the ladies that got a win, whereas the other two that only got 3 points, Harrison and Dalziel, they're fighting ladies who didn't get any points at all. So what's the logic there? Do you know?
No, I don't know. I don't know their exact process of how they book the initial fights. I thought, I was under the impression that people who won in the first event were going to be fight other winners from the first event.
Right.
That's kind of what I was told was the protocol from last season, and that would be the same this season. So when we were talking, I was like, okay, well, we're probably fighting Roberta. And I was like, oh, well, it's going to make sense. Kayla's fighting Bobby. And then, that way you have two people who have won 2 guaranteed fights.
Correct.
And if you have the losers fight losers, you have 2 who have 2 guaranteed losses. And then you have the 4 in the middle who potentially could be 1-1. And so that way the points actually matter more because, the spread can be very different.
Right.
And so, they had me out at PFL 2, and they had me announce on there, like, oh, who are you fighting? I was like, oh, I'm allowed to announce it now. I'm fighting Roberta, Samad. And in my head, I was just like, oh, yeah, of course, and Kayla's fighting Bobby, because that's what we had been, I think that's what I had been told. I don't know who told me, but someone told me, like, winners fight winners. And then when it came out and I saw the flying back and I saw the list of fighters, and I was like, this doesn't seem right. It says that Kayla's fighting Morgan, who I just fought. And, I guess that they switched it, and they have, Kayla fighting Morgan, and they have Bobby fighting Larissa.
Yeah.
And, Yeah, and then a couple of the men had the same thing. So at least it wasn't just for the women;
Yeah.
it was for the men as well. But I mean, I do see it as a storyline that they're creating for sure. And whether Kayla tried to pull the strings and get that to happen, or whether that's just how they do it, whether they somewhat drew names, I really have no idea what the process was for the matchmaking. But it does definitely make for a storyline in that Kayla is now fighting the person that I already fought. I won in 2 minutes, 22 seconds. I can almost guarantee that she'll go for a takedown within 10 seconds of the fight starting, trying to get that fast finish so that she can have, a leg up that if I were to go to decision, it then comes into play, the actual timing of how fights end, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So it makes for a really funny storyline, and it's not what I was expecting, but I totally get why, that match got made.
Yeah, it threw me off too. I thought Harrison would fight Dalziel. But if that wasn't the case, then Kaufman and Samad should also be matching up with 4 ladies that lost. I don't know. I've followed other kinds of different sports a long time, so I know a 1 plays an 8, a 2 plays a 7, like that type of seeding. But
right.
I guess if you're saying the PFL did that with other divisions, then okay, whatever. But hey. You don't seem too worried about it, so then I guess it's not a big deal. But you weren't dumb enough to miss it either.
No, I plan on winning all the fights in front of me, and if you plan on winning, and if you do win 4 fights out of 4 fights, you're guaranteed that $1 million. So that's how I'm looking at it, not who's in front of me, but what I have to do to make sure I move forward into that next step. And once it moves into the playoffs, it's guaranteed 1 fights 8, 2 fights 7, 3 fights 6, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so for us, it'll be 1 and 4, 2 and 3. So there's not really that much of a split anyway. And that's how the fights were made. I don't actually care because I'm going to do my job when it comes to July 11th and get that win. Hopefully a first round, second round, or even third round finish if need be, because any finish guarantees me by the numbers that I'm in first place, and that's definitely the message that I want to send.
Okay. Well, we often have Ray Steffo in our studio here in Vegas, so I'll just ask him just because I want to know. I'm kind of curious myself, and then we'll see what the logic is. But in the meantime, you have a safe camp, and you're like 2 weeks away or something like that. So
exactly 2 weeks out,
and you're gonna get another paycheck and more exposure, and I think it's really, really exciting. So, thank you so much for giving us some time out of your busy schedule, and good luck with the rest of your camp. Safe travels to Atlantic City, and good luck on the 11th.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, and I'm really excited that everyone gets to watch ESPN, ESPN Plus, TSN in Canada. So it's again another great opportunity with the PFL to showcase myself and keep that legacy going and grow it further.
All right, Sarah. Thanks for the time. Enjoy your evening. All right, there you have it. That's Sarah Kaufman, who sits at the top of the leaderboard with 6 points. Kayla Harrison, Roberta Samad, and Bobby Joe Dalziel all have 3 points, and then the last 4 ladies have 0 points. I only brought it up because I know that fans are going to wonder. Because if I'm just an ape over here, if I come across that, then I'm going to wonder how they pair, what the logic is. We'll ask Ray, though, next time he's in and see what the deal is with that. So that was a lot of fun. Quite a list, though, right, Goes? Like, she's to who's who. She's got one of those, like, Dan Hendo lists where you just go and go, wow, man, homeboy fought a lot of people. Saying, Cerrone, there's just some fighters where you just look back and go, does this person ever get a day off? But
yeah, Henderson's might be the most impressive of all time.
Right, because he did it across 3 different divisions and had a ton of success.
UFC and Pride.
I keep saying, had he gotten that decision against Michael Bisping, I think he would have had the most decorated championship resume out of any pro fighter in the history, because he would have claimed Pride, Strikeforce, and UFC. He never fought in Bellator, but still to be able to hit all those others, along with those key wins that he had, over other people. In fact, I'm going to have some fun with it here. We got to take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. I'm going to have a little bit of fun with it, and we'll come back and give you a little bit of some Dan Henderson figures, plus still a lot of to touch on here with the news, and we also have Mike Afromowitz in the second hour. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Traffic. That's a jam. That jam is going to take up 4 minutes. And, well, it's not really 4 minutes, but it'll take up a little bit of your time and just put you in a good mood, man. It's a solid tune.
This is something you remember, or you heard it for the first time?
I was in the car and I heard the song. I was like, God, it has so much energy. So I took a picture of it because I knew I wouldn't be able to remember it. It's by Kelly Marie. It's called Feels Like I'm in Love. It's on the Studio 54 channel, which is awesome, by the way. So you know me, I got my favorites, First Wave, obviously NBA channel, Fight Nation. But eventually I make my way to 54 from time to time.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of like 70s disco, like this type of music. Yeah. So good job, Andre. Thank you very much. All right. We are going to talk a little bit about Colby Covington. That's on our list of things to do because we had a fun interview with him yesterday. He cracks me up, man. I know we have one listener that was telling me, I don't like his energy. I go, you know what? I respect that. That's fine. If that's how you feel, I'm not going to be a white knight and say, oh, no, you know, this is the way it is. Because I've said it already. All I can tell you is it's clear Colby's got a shtick. But Goz and I have known him for a while. And aside from just the military trip, he's always been just a pretty respectful dude. And a nice fella. He went about, you know, his way of conducting himself, his professional career, his persona in a different fashion. And yes, he ruffled feathers. But guess what? He got himself into some pretty big fights. He was able to get a belt. He was able to take the belt to see the president. And now he's fighting another former champion. And maybe that will solidify the shot that we thought he already had. Except that he's just in a stacked division. And there's an undefeated guy named Ben Askren who's making some noise, who's fighting Colby's best friend, George Masvidal. So I think it was probably prudent for him to say, hey, I'm not just going to wait till Kamaru Usman comes back because nothing, there are no promises is the way it works out. Even when Dana goes, Colby's next, Dana can change his mind. I think we all know that. So they asked Colby to fight, and he said, okay. He told us it took him 20 seconds, right?
I wasn't here that day.
Oh, you weren't here? Okay, yeah.
It was at Dana White's Contender Series.
Real quick, though, I did say that Dan Henderson has an incredible list, and I just looked it up during the commercial. He actually fought, in his career, he wound up having 30, how many was this? 32 wins. However, of those 32 wins, he beat 14 different athletes that were world champions aside from also winning his own belts. Remember Chael was not on, but remember Chael's, the topic came up, and we said even though he didn't win a title, he did beat 8 former champions of major sports leagues, major MMA leagues. So respect there. Dan beat 14 different athletes.
Wow.
But 2 of them he beat twice. I believe it was Bustamante and Hua.
Shoga.
Yeah. And those were all title holders of either UFC, Pride, WSOF, which is now PFL, or Bellator, or whatever. You know, Strikeforce, all the big leagues. That's pretty damn amazing. And then he did it as a middleweight, light heavyweight, and a featherweight, or heavyweight.
Has tournament wins too.
Wins.
He was able to go through a lot of generations of mixed martial arts, and a lot of the stuff he did, I don't even feel like he had a complete game until like the middle of his career, and he was able to beat some beasts.
But what was elusive was the UFC belt.
Yeah.
He never got that one. And by the way, the ones he took losses to, they were beasts too. So it's not like you can go, you lost to that guy. I mean, but he only lost to champions as well. He only lost to Machida and Evans and Cormier and Mousasi and Bisping and Shields and Anderson and Quinton. All these guys held belts. I mean, he literally never had an easy fight.
Yeah.
They were all monsters.
Can you imagine if he fought at 185 his whole career?
All right. Colby Covington was on our show on Tuesday, and we had a fun chat with him, myself and Richard Hunter. Goes was over at Dana White Contender Series. So this might be the first time him hearing some of these cuts, but he's fighting a former teammate. Him and Robbie did spend some time together at American Top Team before Robbie Lawler eventually left for the team that's used to be called the Black Zillions, and now I believe it's Hard Knocks, Combat Club. I forget which one it is, but he's with Henry Hoof, basically. They kind of had a split, the Black Zillions did. And but still, those gyms are only, like I heard, half an hour apart. And that's also where Kamaru Usman trains, and Michael Chandler, and others. So here's him talking about the time they trained together, and this is cut number 1.
No, me and Robbie, we trained a couple times together. He was getting ready for Johnny Hendricks and needed a southpaw wrestler, so I offered up my services and trained with him.
So this is when Robbie was at the top of the game. That's why he offered up his services. This was him coming up, and Robbie was the first UFC champion, if I'm not mistaken, for American Top Team. They had a little bit of a falling out, which I don't know too many of the details of, but I believe it's pretty public that it was between Lawler and Dan Lambert. So, which is surprising to me because I've only ever heard kind things out of ATT fighters regarding Dan Lambert. So I wonder what happened there. Who knows? But this is when Colby was coming up, and he was giving Robbie looks. He's got a lot of respect for him, but here in cut 2, he talks about testing his skills.
I got a lot of respect for Robbie. He's a great fighter, a legend in the fight game. The last real champion in this division. So, I'm excited to get in there and test my skills against him and, do what I do best, and that's win, man. Promises made, promises kept.
So far, pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like Robbie's really going to put up a meme. He's not Justin Willis or Taito Ivasa. He's not going to come up with smack talk or anything. So I think he basically knows it's a little bit of a waste of time. I mean, they're already the headliners. It's not like he's really chasing pay-per-view points or anything like that. It's on ESPN. It's really up to the UFC to do the heavy lifting of the marketing.
It's hard to hate on Robbie too. Like, what could you possibly say?
He's
if you
another stud that's fought
like,
just beast as well.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Yeah. Now that's the guy that he gets along well with. But actually, let's do cut number 3. I guess he reveals a little bit more and maybe does turn up the smack talk here in cut 3.
Robbie has looked great in his last couple fights. He looks better than ever right now. And he's got a lot of motivation coming in this fight because, he had a falling out with my agent, Dan Lambert, at American Top Teams, and he left our gym and went to the Black Zillions. He traded on us. So, he's going to have that extra motivation to come in and try and knock me out.
Yeah. So, that might pop up here in the lead-up. Who knows if Robbie will answer those types of questions or what, and if anything comes out, and maybe Colby can kind of saddle up to, hey, I'm defending my agent, like that angle or something like that. Okay, now I was talking about some of the ones that he doesn't like and doesn't say kind things about. Kamaru Usman, who he has a creative name here for, and this is cut number 5 on what he thinks of the UFC undisputed welterweight champ.
Marty Fake Newsman, he's out there faking injuries. Who knows when he's going to fight again? He's already been out for 6 or 7 months, and who knows when he'll be back? He's making up different narratives and excuses each and every week. So, the show must go on.
Has Kamaru been injured that often?
I don't think so. No.
I'll have to go back and look and see if he's just had like a string of them or whatever. I don't like he doesn't jump out at me as one of those that's just like he's banged up or anything.
I mean, think about like
it does
Tyron
suck.
Woodley, RDA. It's hard to not come out of fights like that 100%. Those are 2 really tough fighters.
They're killers, man, for sure. Another guy who doesn't like is Ben Askren. In cut number 7, he addresses him.
He doesn't want to earn his title shot. He wants to take it from me because he's never earned anything in his life. He lost his Hodge Trophy to Robbie Lawler. He lost his soul to Robbie Lawler. And, he's trying to steal my title shot because he doesn't want to earn it the old-fashioned way.
He also goes on in cut number 8 to talk about how the fight's going to end that he has coming up against his best friend, George Masvidal.
He's got bigger problems ahead of him with my best friend, Jorge Masvidal, and that's that, man. If he ever gets, up to the top of the mountain with me, then I'm telling you, it's going to be a bad ending for Ben Askren, like really bad. He's not going to take me down. He can't wrestle me. What's going to happen? You're going to see a guy get knocked out unconscious and never come back and fight ever again.
Answer me this. Wouldn't you say George has a little bit of the skills that Luis Sapo Santos had? He's one of the guys that, Ben Askren's never lost, but Ben Askren's had a few fights where he's had some troubles, right?
Jay Heron
in round 5. I mean, that one was a close fight. I remember Jay Heron really, really turning it on. But Luis Santos was kind of had, a little bit of a sprawl that worked at times, athleticism and footwork. And because Jorge has, for one, part of an amazing team that's got a ton of wrestlers, and Jorge's also he's had his ups and downs, and I think he's realizing I can't afford another down. I got to build off this tailwind. So now he's got to literally run those extra miles per week and do those extra rounds. And, you know, he's lucky in that Colby Covington is a wrestler that he can maybe get some rounds with. Although, as I say that, I know Colby in our interview talked about some of his travel prevented that from happening. But it doesn't mean that they haven't trained in the past. However, the Damian Maia camp, Jorge had a lot of success at times. It was only because he was a little bit stubborn and kind of went back into certain spots where they were able to engage themselves. And what you want to do with a guy like Askren or Maia is separation. Yeah, exactly. You know, and but so that fight's going to be exciting, man. It's not going to be like how Askren's faced other strikers and he's just able to just smother them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it could be possible.
If he gets his hands on him, he might be able to. Yeah, you're right. It's that's why he's undefeated. He's a stud.
Finish him.
Right, but can he do it for 3 rounds? Like I say, George is a lot tougher than people think because he actually wrestled in high school. He's worked on his wrestling all these years. His jiu-jitsu's underrated. Strong, athletic, and I think more than anything right now, focused.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually more excited to see Colby fight Ben Askren. Mm-hmm. I don't know why. I feel like not only would the smack talk be tremendous, but the fight would be really fun too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. First things first, he has Lawler and Masvidal has Askren. Now, the Masvidal-Askren fight is coming up here next week at UFC 239, so lots to look forward to. By the way, tonight at 7 Eastern, it's Free Agency Central. The balance of power in the NBA is about to shift as dozens of superstars get ready to hit the free agency market. Hear expert analysis and insight on the latest news and rumors from around the league on NBA Radio, Sirius 207, XM86, and streaming on your phone and at home on SiriusXM connected devices and speakers. All right, let's go to the phone line real quick. We have Marco from Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco?
Marco from Waco, ¿qué pasa, dude?
Not much, man.
Brian and Laura sitting in a tree, Kissing. I have to do it. Hey,
what's up?
I love the interview you got with Colby Covington yesterday. That was a good get, man. I mean, like Colby kind of sort of murky the facts a little bit. You know, the last linear champion was George St. Pierre, but well, you know, he's gonna do his thing to promote. But I don't mind this fight with Roy Lawler, to tell you the truth. You know, it's gonna be a little bit better for him. The fact that it is after the Askren Masvidal fight. Let's say if Askren wins, he has this fight with Roy Lawler in August. There's gonna be a lot of recency bias. You know who we MMA fans are, and if he does a good job with Lawler and even he finishes him, he can start making that claim to start calling Kamaru Usman and start making more noise. It all depends on how the fights look. If Ben Askren does the Russell Falk lay and pray, he might hurt himself and his chances. Masvidal is not an easy guy to take out. That's just my opinion. Peace out.
Okay, see you, Marco.
To me, that's the only way you can win that fight, right? I don't think you'd want to stand there and trade with a guy like Jorge Masvidal.
Correct. And I'm gonna just kind of get to it right here. The reason Colby Covington took that fight, if you see the follow-up article that we had, not just our interview with Colby, and it wasn't on yesterday, Marco, it was Tuesday. Yesterday we actually had Thiago Santos, the headliner of UFC 239, and Daniel Cormier, one of the greatest of all time. That was our Wednesday lineup. But Colby, it wasn't the sinus. He actually had a valid excuse when he won this past June. And no, not this past June of 2018, and he couldn't fight in September of 2018. For one, you don't get stripped for not being able to fight that quick when you come out of a 5-round war with RDA, and then you address an injury that the UFC diagnosed. Mm-hmm. It was just bad timing. Now the UFC is caught in this position where, because they have so many shows, sometimes they scramble, and so they lean on people to take a fight. What does lean mean? Pretty much something like goes. If you can't go, okay, I'd hate to be goes. The next time you want something along the lines, without the actual threat, they just let you know it wouldn't be smart for you to turn this one down, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that, guys. He wound up fighting Darren Till, talking about Tyron Woodley. it was after that when he came back and he was ready to go in November, but then Woodley had an injury, and then Woodley's injury was one of those. Remember, he would share with us, what was it? I think it was the hand or something like that. Through the holidays, he said he was going to have it looked at, maybe a surgery. And so as all that was happening and they were filling out the spring 2019 calendar, there was an opportunity for Kamaru Usman to fight on that card, and the UFC wanted Colby to fight. Colby was saying, no, I got the shot versus Woodley. The UFC saying, we get that, but you weren't ready here because of the sinus injury. And now we don't know what's happening with Woodley, and so the UFC just, I guess, probably didn't like that Covington. Aside from being a handful, remember insulting Brazil and all that shit. Aside from being a handful, I think it was that sequence goes that put him kind of a little bit in the doghouse. Now Kamaru Usman also looked good against.
Wasn't good either.
Looked good against RDA. Well, that one I guess there's footage, and it looked more like he was the one that was blindsided. But Kamaru Usman looked good. Speaking of the palms, you and I were there. He looked good against RDA. He really impressed Dana White. And I think that's why that he said Kamaru's fighting on March 2nd. Now, he's either fighting Woodley or Covington. Covington didn't want it. Woodley then proclaimed himself ready, and then the rest is history. Usman won. So I think that's the sequence right there that didn't go over well. That's why Lambert knew, hey, man, we got to take this one because it's not just Askren that's breathing down his back. It's those other guys that we mention all the time. Ponzinibbio, Zaleski dos Santos, I forget, Vicente Luque. There's just dudes that are on really, really great runs right now, and that's just the way it is. So it was very smart of Covington to take this. Plus, why would you want to go into the Usman fight off an 18-month layoff? You might as well be sharp and, get it done here. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to touch on a topic that I thought about. It was something I threw to the editors regarding the daily debate. It's not going to be what we eventually settled on for the daily debate, which we'll do in the second hour. But I still think it was something that, as I was explaining it to Josh and Goes on our show call, I think they showed a little bit of interest. So we're going to do a little bit of segment. It has to do with champs and what should happen after somebody becomes a champ, because it's a great moment when it does go down, but the fallout from it is just trash. So stay close. We'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
We're just getting warmed up. Now the real show begins. Take it away, boys.
Andre staying with the disco theme. I love it. Good
Yep,
job,
we're sticking
Andre.
with that. I like it.
All right, good. It's not that I don't look forward to his Hall & Oates. I've embraced those as well.
He has to do one Hall & Oates at least.
Yeah,
That's
but I
his
like it
thing.
better when it catches me off guard and I'm not
Okay.
thinking about it. Because my immediate reaction is like, what the fuck? But then I'm like, wait a minute. That was cool back in the day. Go ahead. Rock it. All right, this will be quick. Goes, what would you think of if Dana White or Scott Coker, I came across an article where Bader has a plan to defend both belts. Cejudo, that was his plan. I've come to realize it's nobody's plan. They want to win it, but Amanda Nunes seemed like she was close to retiring recently, and we know Daniel Cormier, he had his little self-imposed cutoff, but the guy hurt his back, off a sneeze. The point is, that's the accomplishment. It's hard enough to win one belt. Then you go win another one, and for all of us to sit there and think that they're really going to defend it, even though they tell us time and time, is stupid. What if the promotion just said, tell you what, instead of going through this song and dance, we're going to allow you to win. And if you win, you can tour America and go on your PR tour and hit all the different radio shows and TV shows or whatever. Go on a vacation. Whatever, man. Sleep naked in the belts. But after 30 days, and you tell me, goes, if even that's too long, 15 days, 30 days, 90 days, but I think 30 days is good, you're giving one of them up. None of this, well, you got to think about it or whatever. No, fuck all that, because we know you're not going to defend both, and it's really not fair to everyone else. Because you got Peter Yan, who, by the way, just had an elbow surgery, and Aljamain Sterling. They're thinking, they're pleading the case why they're next for Cejudo. This weekend, you got Formiga versus Benavidez. They're pleading the case. Formiga says, I don't want to take another fight unless it's for a title. Benavidez is going, I beat that dude. You know what I mean? Out of everybody here, I beat that guy once. So he feels like he's got, something to stand a leg on. But let's go back to the bantamweights. Aljamain's probably thinking, whew, I was probably the leader here, but at least I don't have to worry about Yan because he just had surgery. Oh, wait a minute. The guy I want to get the title from, he's having surgery, or he already had the surgery. He's out for all of 2019. But let's just say Cejudo were to go, I was just bullshitting. I didn't have another surgery. I am healthy. Aljamain Sterling still has to sweat whether he wants to defend it in that weight class or if Cejudo's going to do the other weight class. And to just sit around, I don't know, man. I don't like it. So I think the promoters should take the bull by the horn and go, we're going to allow you to do this. Pitbull Frady, Daniel Cormier, Amanda Nunes, Henry Cejudo, and whoever else has ever done it, Conor McGregor, whatever. Mm-hmm. But 30 days and you're giving one up. Either that or 30 days and you're already defending one. You're already giving us the day for when you're going to defend one. But to sit there, like, we literally have to wait till Cejudo's healthy at the end of 2019 and then figure out what has he decided. Come on, man. What is this, like LeBron and where we had to wait for 1 hour to figure out if he was going to go to Miami or where he was going to go? I mean, I don't want to do that. I love what Cejudo's done. I'm a big fan of Triple C. But, hey, man, these are hard to get to. These title charts are hard to get to. And that's what I had thought about when, just thinking about everything, like kind of like what Covington's had to go through and all the other ones that have always chased down these world champs.
I get where you're coming from, but I think one thing that is it is remarkable to win them, but they also usually set you up for that second one, right? It's not like GSP took a couple fights and all that. He got the middleweight fight right away, right?
Yeah.
So I think part of it is defending. What I would do is I would tell them.
Only David Branch has done that. Where I've seen him go boom, 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 or whatever it was.
I think they should set the rule that whatever you win, so say you're the 170 champ, okay, and you go up to middleweight, and you win that belt, your first defense has to be back at 170. And you have to flip-flop. You can't be saying, well, and it can't be the fighter's decision, like, I think I'm going to. No. This is what you defend, to be fair to the divisions. And if you can't do it, that belt's gone.
I would take something like that, man. I'm just telling you, like, I swear to God, what I want is this. The next time there's a champ going to become a champ, and I go to ask and say, should you win, which one do you plan on defending? I want the promoter to go, I'll answer that one. I'll answer that one for you.
I think you should.
It's either what Go said, he's going back to the one that he last defended, or he's relinquishing the title in 30 days, so therefore we don't have a question. He doesn't have a question to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because to sit there and just wonder, oh, dude, after like 5 years of doing this, there's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing. I love guys and gals that become champs, but enough already with the fact that they're going to defend both. It's not going to happen. And then it frankly doesn't need to happen. That was the accomplishment. Unless someone is moving to another weight class, then I get it. All right, folks, 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. It's a 60-second break. We'll be right back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156.
And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
Andre on the 70s kick. That was a good one, too. Which one was that one, Andre?
This is Voulez-Vous by ABBA.
Ah, okay. Voulez-Vous. That one?
Yes, exactly.
Are you a fan, or is somebody like feeding these to you?
No, I'm actually a fan. I know my 70s.
Oh, okay.
How old are you?
Keep it up, man.
Yeah, I'm 22, but my music is
Wow.
in the 70s and 80s. So I'm basically like a 40-some-year-old when it comes to music.
Oh, that's impressive.
Okay. All right, shut it, Andre. Let's see here. Check this out, guys. Is your interest piqued, or are you rolling your eyes when I tell you that Dana White admits to engaging in talks to promote Tom Cruise and Justin Bieber?
I'm rolling my eyes unless there is something other than pride on the line.
Pride? What do you mean?
There has to be something else on the line. I don't know. If it's over a girl, nah. Even then, dude.
One dude's 57, the other one's like 27. It can't be that, right?
No.
So
if they both had a stake in the company, you know, that little 0.5% or whatever that some of them have.
Mm-hmm. If
their percent was on the line or something like that, then maybe I'd tune in. But I don't care. Do you?
Well, remember when James Toney came
in.
through and CM Punk?
Mm-hmm.
I knew they weren't going to win, but they had notoriety, and
Really?
I thought, well, if a few boxing fans may tune into our sport, or if a few pro wrestling fans may tune into our sport, then all right. But every time that happens, they take a spot from a fighter that could be fighting on that fight card.
Right.
And that's not fair.
You thought James Toney was a lock? I thought he stood a lock, yeah, to lose.
To lose, yeah. I didn't think it was going to be Randy Couture.
I know, but there wasn't a. Ray Mercer knocked out Tim Sylvia not that long before that.
This is true, but Randy.
If he got him to the ground, then I would say, oh yeah, this is a wrap right here. But there was a piece of me that
Randy's
said,
a chess player. You know, he looks at them as puzzles to figure out,
mm-hmm.
and I think he isn't foolish enough to know. Let me test my hands against this guy. Although he did catch me off guard when he beat Chuck with just striking the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I kind of had a feeling. Plus, you know, Tony just seemed like it was like a cash grab, and he didn't seem like an athletic heavyweight that was coming in like, you know, or like for example, I always used to say this: Kermit Citron, professional boxer, he was a state wrestling champion. Chris Algieri, professional boxer, He was a state wrestling champion. James Toney was not that. And so I just had a feeling that was a huge long shot. But
what has to happen for you to be okay with this fight? Money goes to charity. What are like the scenarios? If it were just a single fight, would you be upset if it headlined a card?
Well, a lot of times when it used to upset me is when when my buddies would ask me, what is going on over there in that circus sport you cover? Mm-hmm. Because of the things that, having celebrities being entertaining, throwing their name in the hat, or just having fighters that don't really belong. And I felt like I had to stand up for MMA. No, man, it's a real sport. It's just that this is what happened and blah, blah, blah. But now I feel confident that we have the sport has strong roots. Mm-hmm. And our career's now a dozen years in. So it's not like we're trying to figure out what might happen. I mean, our site is reputable. The site that owns us, the newspaper that owns us, is reputable. So I don't worry about it too much. I just let them talk because I know that they would still talk. But at the end of the day, if it brings eyeballs to the sport, then I guess I'm good with it. I just don't want it happening all the time. Because, again, I really love for that spot to be used by fighters that are ready to fight. You know what I mean? It's just that the UFC does like 42, 44 events per year all over the world. They sometimes go 13, 12, 13 bouts in. So
I got a question.
What are you going to do? You know what I mean?
What if they didn't involve other fighters and they just did a card of non-UFC fighters? Now, I'm not saying they're all going to be the level of Beaver and Tom Cruise. Uh-huh. But if you just took people that kind of had beefs and put them all on one card, maybe they didn't even call it a UFC. I don't know.
Have you ever seen
Would you be okay with that?
No. Have you ever seen like Ellis Mania?
Yeah.
I feel like that belongs like Ellis Mania.
Well, of course, yeah, but those are...
You see what I'm saying? It's entertainment, and people go to it, but not at the UFC.
I'd rather see him box.
Like, CM Punk could honestly say, hey, look, I've done jiu-jitsu for years. Brock Lesnar, there was no disputing what he had done because he was a national champion in wrestling. James Toney was a professional boxing world champion as well. But when you get to this type of silliness, it better happen like once every 5 years, but not what you're saying. If it's going to happen like what you're saying, then you know what? Have it at the Apex Center as just part of some bonus card, that. Like,
but they want to make the money. They want people to order it.
That's
right?
true. That's true. Yeah. So,
but that's my point, though. You can still
mad
order
either way.
it.
I'm not mad either. I'd rather they not do it, but if they did it, I always look and turn to see what the positives are. And look, I know that story picked up a lot of traction. That's for sure.
But would you feel better if they could have it at the Apex Center, but it could just be its own little independent thing? In other words, what I'm saying is you keep it off of a UFC card so you don't make that look shitty. It's just kind of its own independent thing.
There you go. Dana White Contender Series?
Like at the end of a Contender Series.
Yeah, exactly. You know how we're supposed to have 5?
What if they win a contract?
You know how you...
What if Bieber gets a contract? Can you imagine?
You know you're supposed to get 5 fights? Mm-hmm. If they were to go, we're still going to have our 5 fights, so we're not depriving anyone of a shot to get into the UFC. It's just that today we're going to have a 6th fight. Perfect. I love that. And maybe that would bring eyeballs to ESPN Plus or Fight Pass or whatever it is they want to do. I'm sure they would pay both of them handsomely, and maybe those two would have to do a certain amount of media, blah, 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 or whatever.
At a 7th, Jolie and
I really don't want to
Henderson.
see them on a pay-per-view. Unless if the pay-per-view gives me... I just feel like...
You can't have a mix. You can't have a mix. That's just... Yeah. It wouldn't be right. But if you want to do something off to the side, call it something else from the Apex Center, cool. I'll even pay for it. If it were like $20, yeah, I'll see them two bozos fight for $20. Here you go. But don't mix it with the UFC card.
Here's a couple of quotes that he gave to #Sports2019. He was a guest speaker there. He said, "I should have known this was going to be the first question." White laughed when he was asked in the opening seconds of the Q&A. He says, "Listen, if I can make that fight, I'd be all over that fight. It'd be the biggest pay-per-view in the history of pay-per-view." I don't know about that,
but
yeah. He also continues when the moderator, Jason Gay, asked White if it was true that he was seriously contacted about putting it together. White confessed, quote, "It is true, as crazy as that sounds, That is true. I don't want to use any names, but I was at home on a Sunday. I got the call with two big guys on the phone. They were telling me this could possibly happen, and this could be real. I'm like, there's no way that this is really going to happen. But if it does, call me back. I'm in.
Dude, I said there's no way Floyd will fight Conor. After that, anything is possible for me.
You know what was even worse, Goes, when I think about that? It wasn't that they actually boxed. I shouldn't have been too shocked because I know that when money's involved, anything can happen. It was the fact that Brendan Schaub and Dana White, when they were asked, who you got? They actually had the balls to go, I'm going with McGregor on this one. Like, yeah, I mean, at some point you just got to go, wow, you know I'm supposed to say something right now, but I can't do it. Like, my mouth won't form up those words. I'm going with Mayweather because, A, he's never lost. B, he's probably the greatest boxer of all time. C, it just so happens McGregor's never boxed. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many. But they actually, when they actually rode with their guy, and I don't even want to give them credit like, wow, they stood by their guy. No, man. There just comes a point where you just go, no, that's not going to happen.
I don't even want that to feel as if we're shitting on Conor because I really respected the fact that he took it serious, and I thought he looked as good as you could possibly look in that scenario. But it's Floyd Mayweather, man. This ain't going to happen.
If Dana White was standing next to a scarecrow and somebody asked me, who do you think's going to win, Dana White or the scarecrow? And I went, the scarecrow. Wouldn't Dana White go, what, are you fucking out of your mind? This guy, he's not even a real person. That's kind of how I felt when he answered it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it all started with Justin Bieber tweeting, I want to challenge Tom Cruise to fight in the octagon. Tom, if you don't take this fight, you're scared and you will never live it down. Who is willing to put on the fight? At Dana White. And that's kind of where it went from there. This was on June 9th. It was after UFC 238.
What I don't know is what the genesis of all that is.
Me neither. No idea. All right, let's go back to the Champ Chat talk. Victor from Utah wants to talk. What's up, Victor? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
So I thought about it quite a bit on how they should deal with the champ.
Okay.
And they need to give them kind of basically an ultimatum, like, yes, you can move up in weight or down, whichever, and go for the title, but you have to defend the other title between 2 and 3 months. If not, then that title's out the door, and you got to defend the other one. Like, there's no, like, it already needs to be in the contract as they're signing for the second title, that they're already going to fight the number one contender or whoever's next in line.
Right. So perfect example would be Henry Cejudo fought Marlon Moraes on June 8th. All right?
Right.
He had just become the flyweight champion in January. So from January to June, 5 months had passed by. So I would have told him, look, if you beat Moraes, you got 30 days to let me know if you're either relinquishing or I need you to fight in 90 days, September 7th in Abu Dhabi, which is the same card as Poirier and Habib. If you can't do that, if you don't commit to being the co-main event that night, or maybe something in October at the Stadium Show in Australia or whatever, because that's on us if we don't give it to you for the 90 days. But you have to be willing to. If your health is good, and if you're willing to do it, then guess what? You can still stay the champ. But that fight is going to be back at the other weight class, the flyweight division. If you get banged up and you have to have a surgery, okay, we'll take care of you just like we take care of our athletes. But guess what? You will make the announcement that you're relinquishing one of the 2 titles. And when you come back, that's the one that you're going to defend. And then we're all good. I think it all sounds fair.
I think every time we get a new champ, it almost diminishes the whole thing. I thought it was something that maybe 1, maybe 2 people would ever be able to do.
Right.
But now they're making it so easy for everyone to just do it because it sounds good for the UFC. I'm starting to not care as much anymore. It's kind of like my argument for pound. Give me 5 of them. After that, those are just good fighters, great fighters. But the top 5 are elite.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty historic, though. And each one of those has been willing to go up against the killer. Cejudo had to face Moraes because Moraes was on an incredible roll. Cormier had to fight arguably the greatest UFC heavyweight champ ever in Miocic. I think GSP's was a little bit more calculated. Again, no disrespect to Bisping, but Bisping, even he knew that he was kind of like in his latter years of his career, and I think GSP was kind of hunting for it. In fact, even Bisping himself has said it. You saw me as kind of as an easy target. He said it in the build-up. But look, he did it, and he did it off a long layoff. So either way, they are going up against beasts. I have to tip my hat to that. What they're not doing, though, is the road to the title. Look at what Poirier had to do just to get to Khabib. So for someone to just go, give me Khabib. Even though, I'm the featherweight champ. Now give me Khabib. But you didn't have to go through the murderer's row that Dustin Poirier had to go through. That's the part that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
And it sucks, especially if there's other candidates waiting for them. But anyway, that was a great call. Thank you so much. Let's go. Let's stick with the topic here. Dave from Detroit, Champ Talk. What's up, Dave?
Hey, guys. How you doing tonight?
Good, thank you. How about you?
Pretty good. Yeah, I think that the whole champ thing is starting to get played out. But, I also want to acknowledge that it is a monumental feat, for all these guys and Amanda as well. Even Ryan Bader over there in Bellator, it's definitely a very significant feat, and kudos to all of them that have done it. But, quite simply put, it, kind of just bogs down to the weight classes and stuff like that, and I guess in seeing that stuff, it also replaces, like, us not getting, GSP versus this person, as today Khabib, or, John Jones versus Anderson Silva. Now we could quite possibly see John Jones versus Adesanya. Things like that. So, I mean, that's why we like the sport. We love the sport, and it's just so interesting as to what can happen. So many ways to win, and things like that. I actually have a question for you guys. Me being here in Detroit, we really don't get a lot of shows, UFC or Bellator for that matter. I've heard rumors of a show for October 26th. Have you heard of anything? Maybe. Thank you for taking the call.
Okay. I just had this conversation with somebody. I don't understand why they don't. They have an awesome arena. Why they wouldn't go back? I don't understand why they don't. Well, I kind of understand the Seattle one, but there's a few places, a few markets that.
Portland.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they don't go back there. But as far as hearing a card in Detroit, have you heard that, George?
On October 26th, it's UFC on ESPN plus 20. There isn't an official announcement yet of where they're going, so I can't say that they are headed to Detroit. Detroit did get one of the most violent cards ever, and it was when Ngannou knocked out Overeem. It was when
they didn't get Kevin Lee on that one.
Huh?
They didn't get Kevin Lee on that one. It shocked me.
Well, he had just fought Ferguson in October, so he only had a 2-month turnaround. Remember, he went through the whole staff thing and everything, and he was pretty much heartbroken because of over Flawless and losing to Tony. But that one, if I'm not mistaken, also had Yancy Medeiros and Alex Oliveira. Do you remember that bloodbath?
Wait, is that the same one that had...
It had Sergio Pettis and Henry Cejudo, I think, too.
Here, Did it have Eddie Alvarez and...
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that was...
That one was something else, man. The last time when they went to Detroit, it was a home run, to the motherfucking max. But to answer Dave from Detroit's question, who followed Victor from Utah, thanks to both guys, there is a card that weekend. We just don't know where. In fact, I'll just tell you some of the stuff I do know, if you'd like to hear it. Junkie Nation. This weekend they're in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Next weekend they're in Las Vegas, Nevada. That's UFC 239. Then they go to Sacramento on July 13th, San Antonio on July 20th. And tickets are available for all these cards. They're already put together. They already have main events. UFC 240 with Max Holloway and Frankie Edgars on July 27th in Edmonton, Canada. On August 3rd, they kind of just announced this one. Newark, New Jersey. Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler is your headliner. That's an ESPN card. Then they go to Montevideo, Uruguay on August 10th for Valentina Shevchenko versus Liz Carmouche. That's the main event there on a fight night. Not ESPN, not a pay-per-view, on a fight night, because the champ wants to stay busy. So hats off to her. And that, by the way, is a replay of a rematch. I should say a replay of a fight that already happened. So she wants to avenge that loss to Carmouche. She's only lost to 2 people, twice to Amanda Nunes and once to Liz Carmouche. Those are the 3 losses for Valentina Shevchenko. Then they're in Anaheim, California on August 17th for Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic 2. Then they go to Shenzhen, China on August 31st, and that card was just recently announced, or the main event, of Jessica Andrade defending her belt against Weili Zhang. Then you get to September 7th. That's Habib Nurmagomedov defending the UFC lightweight title versus Dustin Poirier. Then you get to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada on September 14th. Do we have a main event there? No, I know that Misha Serkinov is fighting Jimmy Crute, but I don't think that's your main event. But at least anyone in Vancouver knows this now. They go back to Mexico City on UFC on ESPN Plus 17. No fight card has been established there. That's on September 21st. On September 28th, they go to Copenhagen, Denmark. And that's on the 28th for UFC on ESPN Plus 18. Then they're in Melbourne, Australia at Dockland Stadium. This is a stadium show for the UFC. Robert Whittaker versus Israel Adesanya is your main event. I imagine Alexander Volkanovski will be on that fight card as well. And he would like to fight the winner of Holloway and Edgar, which takes place about 3 months before that. Then they go to Quebec City, Quebec on October 12th. They're in New York on November 2nd for UFC 244. They're back in Sao Paulo on November 16th, UFC on ESPN Plus 21. And I know they're in Vegas for UFC 245 on December 14th. There won't be that end-of-the-year show this year. Their end-of-the-year show is December 14th for UFC 245. They do have other days that are lined up. You have to pee?
Yeah. Are you doing this on purpose?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just noticed that. They have all these other fights lined up. So they have dates, but there's no cities. I just gave you all the cities that the UFC is going to be hitting. Why don't I go over them one more time? No, I'm just kidding. Goes that's the P. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. When we come back, we'll talk a little bit more about another freak show fight. And this is courtesy of MMA Tonight, Ryan McKinnell, and offering an opinion on proposed Henry Cejudo, Vasil Lomachenko fight. We'll be right back.
Oh, you didn't know?
You can catch up on all things SiriusXM.
And when I say do well, I think he could fight at a championship level in the UFC. I really do.
If you cross them, they will destroy you. Just ask Three Finger Eddie and Pete the Penguin. Who are they, you ask? My point exactly. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
So those were the words of Ryan McKinnell. We call him Big Mac. He's our colleague here on SiriusXM Fight Nation Channel 156. Respected journalist here in Las Vegas. Also has a show locally here in Las Vegas, where he talks about all different kinds of sports. But I don't know, Goes. Lomachenko's got fast hands, and you know those lighter weight class guys. I think footwork is definitely important.
Mm-hmm.
I will meet him halfway. I think Lomachenko could probably, like, if he fought 4 fights in the UFC, I could see him maybe getting 1 win because I love his hands, I love his toughness, and I feel like his athleticism could teach him enough to maybe just get out of there with a win because he lights somebody up. But, man, I don't see him winning a title. Like, that's where I have to go. Ryan, USADA's here. We're going to have to draw your blood and your urine, and because we feel like you're under, you know, I don't know. I don't know what you've been putting into your body, man, but give me some of that stuff.
What kind of treatment is he getting? Is he getting the Dana White treatment, or is he coming in fighting who he's supposed to be fighting?
Well, that's a good question. I suppose. Okay, so Lomachenko would probably fight as a flyweight.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to give him let's say there was a flyweight champion right now that was more of a stand-up guy, like maybe like, well, no, Pettis is all around. Plus he's at bantamweight now, but
well, here's the thing. Regardless,
like Demetrius would have to go to his wrestling. He can't just stand with Lomachenko.
Right.
I mean, pretty much.
Well,
I think we could say that.
I actually think he probably could.
Well, if he throws knees and elbows,
yeah.
Then but just hands to hands.
Lomachenko doesn't have the submission defense or offense, or wrestling offense or wrestling defense. That's very, very, very tough to ask of somebody to come in and be successful, because eventually somebody gets a hold of you. So if it were just striking, yeah, I think he'd do well. You know, I think he would learn how to check kicks. I think he'd maybe throw a couple, surprise us. But all-around game, I just don't think he has it to compete with some of these guys.
Well, we both sat next to Big Mac at Dana White Contender Series. Let's make it a point to book him to get him on the show.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
It'd be a lot of fun to have him co-host, and maybe we can dive a little bit more into that. Because to be fair, that's just an audio cut. And Big Mac's one of those that it's not like you can go, oh, he's a known troll. Like, maybe he has something more to back up his claims
think
with.
about, like, just this past weekend, we saw Artem Lobov stand with Paulie Malignaggi, right? And granted, it wasn't the prettiest of things, but a lot of people going into that fight were saying, Paulie's not even going to get hit. And if anything, he's going to pepper Lobov. Didn't happen, right?
Okay. All right, we'll tackle that when we have Big Mac in here sometime. I think that's on the agenda to do that soon. Hopefully his schedule allows that. All right, right now is a good time for our daily debate.
The brothers Garcia seemingly can't agree on anything.
Everybody knows it's duck season.
Rabbit season.
Duck season.
Rabbit season.
Whether it's food,
Less filling.
Tastes great.
Less filling.
Tastes great.
gambling,
Always bet on black.
I like red.
Black.
Red.
Black.
Red.
Black, dummy.
or even social media.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
The same applies to the biggest stories in MMA. Time for MMA Junkie Radio's Daily Debate.
Pay attention, Goes.
Okay.
Because today's hashtag daily debate question for @MMA Junkie Radio, that's you and I, after Saturday's hashtag UFC Minneapolis main event and the hashtag UFC 241 headliner in August, which heavyweight title scenario do you prefer the most? Here we go. Cormier versus Ngannou, Cormier versus Dos Santos, Miocic versus Ngannou, Miocic versus Dos Santos. This isn't who do you think is going to win.
Who do
I think this is like who do you prefer? And when you give me the answer, tell me why. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to see Cormier and Ngannou.
Okay.
Because of all the accolades that Daniel Cormier has, everything he's achieved in mixed martial arts, I think he can only strengthen it by facing a guy that he hasn't faced before. And at the same time, we're kind of picking between Dos Santos and Ngannou. Dos Santos is probably more towards the end of his career. Ngannou still has some life. And I feel like eventually whether it's sooner or later, I think Ngannou will be a champion.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the type of wins that can strengthen you long past after you retire. When Daniel Cormier is
But Dos Santos
retiring,
was also a champion.
yeah, but when he's retired, this is a more modern era,
Mm-hmm.
and Ngannou's probably doing it against some killers right now.
Mhm.
Okay, he's got a win over Cain Velasquez, who Daniel thinks is the greatest heavyweight of all time. So when Daniel retires, Ngannou's going to be doing him a favor. He's going to be racking up wins, and that's only going to strengthen his case.
Okay. I went with Cormier versus Dos Santos. For one, there's a little bit of a... You know how when the Team Alpha Male guys and Novo Niao guys, they just seem to battle a lot?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this one's a little bit more like one-sided, but Dos Santos had the 3 fights with Cain, so to have another AKA guy would be interesting. It would be a fresh matchup, but I guess I'd like just to see if maybe Dos Santos, from his end, does he get one back on AKA, or does AKA just say, hey, man, we had his number looking back? Another thing is, it's kind of fun when Brazil has a few champions. Not to say it wouldn't be huge for Africa to have yet another champion, because they're whooping ass in that department. They already got 2. But you nailed it. Ngannou, I think, has the future still. And I feel like Dos Santos is a little bit more of, I wouldn't call it past his prime, because the heavyweights go on into their 40s. But I think he's just closer to the end of his career than a guy like Francis Ngannou. Plus, he's just so likable and promotable. And I think he's been through a lot. And I don't know. I want to see that one first. There is also something you maybe left out, which we brought up to Cormier, and that's Ngannou beat Cain Velasquez, and that's like beating up a family member of Cormier. So with that, I agree. I would love to see Cormier maybe fight Ngannou just to see if a little bit of that revenge would come out for him. As we told Cormier, when Ngannou knocked out Cain Velasquez, Justin Willis tweeted, another one's been added to the hit list or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think Daniel Cormier said he's dead. Like that. That's how close those band of brothers are, those heavyweights at AKA are, that's what they were feeling that night. You know what I mean? But whatever.
I also feel
they're
like
all great fights.
If he were to beat Ngannou, I feel like that night probably would be quicker than if he beat Dos Santos. And I think the quicker he can make work, the more chance we have of seeing him again.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the question, in any way you answer it, can go in great directions, because even Miocic versus Ngannou was pretty fun. Even though we kind of had, Ngannou going through the gassing stage a little bit. I mean, he had so much power, you just didn't know if Miocic could kind of like weather 5 storms. And he did. But
be honest,
and Ngannou really wants that one back, by the way.
When they start that fight, whether it's Ngannou...
And Miocic Dos Santos is 1-1-2. Go ahead.
Whether it's Ngannou or Dos Santos, you're just going to have more butterflies in your stomach if it's Ngannou. I promise you.
I would agree.
It's going to be quick. It's going to be just 2 dinosaurs hitting each other.
Yeah.
Head on.
Well, we had 1,249 votes come in, so thank you to Junkie Nation, the readers of the site, and the listeners of the show for chiming in. This is how it broke down. Most agreed with you, 56% Cormier versus Ngannou. But the other ones were really close. Cormier and Dos Santos, 16%. Miocic and Ngannou, 17%. Miocic and Dos Santos, 11%. We're in a little bit of a hurry today, so I'm not going to be able to read off some of the subsequent tweets and comments that came in. But thank you again to everybody that participated. And with that, we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Mike Afromowitz from Combate Americas. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
The mute button. Here are those two numbnuts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
All right, NASCAR content is available live and on demand anytime with the SiriusXM app. Just search NASCAR to discover archive shows and individual interviews from across the SiriusXM family of channels. Get up to speed on all things NASCAR with SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and on the SiriusXM app. Do that right now. All right, our next guest, good friend of the show, known him for a long time. Him and his promotion that he's involved with are really, causing some waves now, man. I mean, they've been doing this for a while, but they were tweeting some stuff earlier that caught my attention. And plus, when isn't it a good time to catch up with Mike Afromowitz, right?
Yeah.
He is like a senior vice president of operations and communications over at Combate Americas, and he joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Mike? How you doing, man?
Hey, guys. How are you? It's been a long time.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good to talk with you again. Good. Just on my way home after a long day.
All right. Well, that's good to hear because Combate's all over the map, man. You guys are, hitting different countries, different cities, so it is good that you're eventually getting home from time to time. I know you got a lovely family that, from when I first met you, you're just a single fella, but now you got the wifey and the kids and everything.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how we go back a long way. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Guy. So yeah, we've been on the road for a while, so now we're finally off the road for a bit until the beginning of August. But yeah, it's good to be talking to you. We've got a pretty busy schedule ahead. With our TV programming, calls for a lot of shows this year. So I think we'll wind up. We'll at least double from last year, but maybe a little over that. So we're still piecing together the schedule for the second half of the year.
Right.
What's left of it.
So you guys are really doing well on Univision, and what caught my eye was on Twitter today. I saw you and Campbell kind of replying to some people and coming strong with some facts. And so what happened was last week's UFC prelims and the Bellator event, which one was an afternoon affair. One was a evening affair, so you had different times and different parts of the day that you can compare yourself. You guys beat the UFC by 3,000 viewers, and you beat Bellator, I believe it was by closer to 30,000, right, or something like that. Congratulations, man! That's good stuff.
Correct. Thank you. Yeah. It's we air at midnight Eastern time anyway.
Right.
Well, Univision it's a single feed, so it's Eastern on both coasts. And I think so it's simulcast on UDN, but the way Univision announces the ratings is they take the bigger of the two numbers. They don't they don't combine numbers. They don't combine Univision and UDN. They just announce the bigger of the two. So that the number you saw is the Univision rating.
Yeah, and so the prelims for the UFC were on ESPN. And the Bellator event was on Paramount. And again, different times of the day. But good stuff, man. Good stuff. That relationship with Univision has really been doing well for you guys now for a while. This isn't just the first show.
Thanks, yeah. It's taken a while to get there. We first went on the air last year. We've been on the a little over a year with them. People, it's not like it happened overnight. We started this, You remember when we started as on a cable network a few years ago, and we worked our way up to Univision, which is the number one broadcast network in the U.S. Hispanic.
Right. We're kind of losing you, Mike. You there? Are you there with us? Is he there, Andre?
Yeah.
There you are.
Oh,
there you are. Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry.
No, it's been it's tough. It's like building.
Andre, why don't you put him on hold and then see if maybe we can call him back or something?
Hello, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, he's back.
There you are. All right, let's try it one more time.
You there?
Yeah. Can you hear
sorry
us?
about that. Must have hit a dead spot. No. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to ask you, Mike, is what is it about this today, though, and these articles that recently came out where I noticed you guys kind of, because you guys have been doing well with the ratings for Univision, and let's face it, man. I mean, Combate's putting on some great shows. It's popping. I see it. I see the news come across a lot of different websites, the results and stuff like that. You guys are hitting different countries. But I noticed you and Campbell were a little bit more like aggressive in pushing back today. Well, did the hostility just kind of boil over a little bit, or?
Well, it's just no, but you know what it is. It's if you're going to, everybody is entitled to an opinion, but when you start misstating facts and misleading others, then it's just not a good thing. I mean, get your facts right. And my problem is that a lot of people don't understand the way Nielsen works. These are verified. Nielsen is a subscription service, so there's companies that pay a lot of money to get that information, and some pay more than others to get even take a deeper dive into audiences. But these ratings are it's a subscription service. It's the most reputable. It's the service when it comes to reporting media data. So when people say things that are it's one thing to not understand, to ask a question. Of course, people have a question, but when you accuse and you're misstating facts at the same time, then there's going to be pushback from us. I mean, from anyone really. I mean, if it's like somebody saying that your show isn't on Sirius XM, or it's being thrown off the air or something like that, just coming out of nowhere and not clearly, just based off nothing really, or it's just based off, their misinterpretation or, not knowing facts. Really. It's because they don't know how the media business works or how, reporting of numbers works, which is fine. But, if you want to ask questions, ask them, but don't, jump to conclusions and start, saying, accusing. I mean, why is there a call for that? I'm not sure. I think maybe people do it to build their own, or hope to build their own followings. There's that, that urgency these days to build social media followings. Everybody's looking at how many followers they have, and maybe that's where a lot of it comes from. A lot of the people are faceless on the internet, and they're tweeting or they're posting from, silly, names, like that, it's not them, and then they have an avatar of, with some, cartoon or somebody, a picture that's not theirs. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that going on, especially in MMA. So, sometimes you're going to, look, like I said, this has not been, easy. It's very challenging. It's a cutthroat business, and we're proud to where we've gotten. And, when somebody tries to take that away from you, based on, I don't know what the motivation is really. Well, then they're going to hear it.
Yeah. Mike Afromowitz is our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He is the Senior VP of Operations and Communications for Combate Americas. Now, Combate Americas does have another show coming up, even though they're taking the month of July off. They're back in early August at the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California, with Zoila Frosto who's right from that neck of the woods. Mm-hmm. She is going to be fighting on that fight card. And we're noting that Combate is really, really doing well with their television ratings. And this doesn't just go for the United States. I heard you guys really kill it in Latin America. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Spain as well. You guys are just doing great TV numbers there as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and well, it started with Mexico, and this happened in January 2017. We started posting up numbers that were really strong, and that's what helped get us to where we are now in the U.S. But by the same token, it was in the summer of 2017 with a show in Miami where we had for the first time a Spanish fighter, and I forgot, to be honest, I forgot the process that we went through, but it wound up airing on Gold TV in Spain, and it outrated, I think, at least outrated Bellator, but maybe UFC too, and they started taking more shows, and it started, dominating that market because we were showcasing Spanish fighters.
Uh-huh.
We went to Peru, you and I exchanged messages about that. We went to Peru on May 31st, and we didn't have a plan to air on Movistar Deportes, but what happened was when we were scouting venues down there, somehow the folks from Movistar came across our team,
right?
And we just there was dialogue, and then they picked up the show, and it wound up doing 10 times what the ratings are normally in that hour. in that time slot, when it aired. And it was the highest rated combat sports show in 2 years. I'm not sure what the the second highest rated was, but
that's awesome.
It performed very well. Yeah. So
Peru's booming for MMA.
That's why exactly you hit the nail on the head. That's why we went there. That's people ask, well, why Peru? Over say another market. And well, we've noticed it's a hotbed just from the scouting we've done for the Copa at the end of the year. We've noticed it's a hotbed. We get a lot of inbound inquiries from Peruvian camps, and so we said, let's try it. Others aren't trying it. Let's see what's what. And we went on a scouting visit there, and we found a phenomenal venue. And then we came across the folks from Movistar to put this. So it just kind of everything aligned as well. And we took it. It's all a matter of taking a chance. Sometimes you have to take chances.
Yep.
As long as they're calculated, and it just worked out well that night. I didn't go actually. I stayed back to work on the U.S. We had 3 shows coming up in the U.S. or 2 shows, and I had to work on those. So I stayed back from Movistar, and the rest of the team went. But I'm hoping we'll be back before the end of the year, and I will go to that one. I want to get to Lima.
There you go. All right, Goes. What do you have for Mike Afromowitz?
Mike, outside of the U.S., I know you guys have been around a lot of Latin America. Is there one area or Central America that kind of feels like home now outside of home?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, not Central, but in Mexico, where we have a business in Mexico and Monterrey in particular. I love it there. I also I love Guadalajara. We've been to Mexicali, we've been to Tijuana, but I love Monterrey. I don't know if you've been there, but I think you can see why if you took a trip there. It's beautiful there, and it's just it feels. If I had to pick one, to answer your question, if I had to pick one, that would be it. Monterrey, Mexico is great.
Is there one country that maybe you feel like the demographic fits perfectly, but just it isn't safe? Maybe there's turmoil right now in the government or anything like that. Somewhere that you've wanted to go, but you just can't pull that part off.
Not for us. I mean, I think we have in addition outside of the U.S., we have a business in Mexico. We have what we feel is like the framework for business in Peru. We have TV in Spain, although we haven't done a live event there. We're looking elsewhere, but I don't think look, whenever you travel to other countries, and things there's danger everywhere. I mean, everywhere you go, there's danger in this country, and you hear the news every day. It's sometimes there are scary things out there, but I mean, I feel at home. Honestly, in Mexico now, I've been so many times. Also, that's the thing. So it's like when I first went there, it was foreign. I thought maybe not felt as comfortable as I do now, but now I feel I love it there. I love going there, and I love operating there. And the fans are awesome. I mean, in Mexico, the fans they come for the beginning, they stay to the end, and they really there's so much energy there when you're in an arena there. I love Monterrey. I love Guadalajara, Mexicali. We're gonna go back to Mexico City, I think, before the end of the year. That's a great one. Although the one thing about Mexico City is the altitude there.
Yeah.
I mean, it just does that to me. So
just going up the stairs would probably be pretty challenging for a guy like me.
For a guy like me too.
All right.
He's talking about the Mandalay Bay, though.
Yeah, just going upstairs at a sea level hurts. But all right, Mike, good stuff, man. Listen, I'm really happy for you guys for Combate Americas and all the success you guys have been having, and you keep killing it. And we'll have you on more often. Thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight, though. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, guys, and thanks. It's great to be talking with you again.
You too, sir. All right, take care. All right, follow Mike on Twitter. Twitter. Why am I talking like that, Goes?
I don't know.
Mike Afromowitz on Twitter is AfroMike76. And for our first guest, it's Sarah Kaufman, just like her name. So, no, I'm sorry. She's MMA Sarah. I apologize. At MMA Sarah. And I think we have one more break, right, guys?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that, and then we'll come back and close up shop. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Fight Nation, channel 156. Here's the thing. That's a good song, but there's nothing we can do with it until it drops, and I don't think we can wait it out. Did you think about that?
Oh, that's fine, man.
Unless you and I slowly talk right now and say, so what you got going on tonight? What are you and Go's doing? And
Isn't that what we're doing?
huh?
Isn't that what we're doing?
We are kind of doing that. We're kind of buying
Can't
time.
disrespect the song either.
Yeah, it is a classic, but see how it's slow?
Mm-hmm.
Look at Andre's like fading it out. He doesn't know what to do. Because once it drops, it's on. Nah, but we're obviously busting balls here, having some fun with some 70s music. There it comes. Here it comes. So let's dance. Who is this, Donna Summer?
I believe so.
Yep, Donna Summer.
Yeah, see, once it gets going, hey, man, let's get to the dance floor. You know what I mean? All right, folks. It's been a fun day today with Mike Afromowitz and Sarah Kaufman. Sarah Kaufman's fighting on July 11th at PFL 2019, Week 4. She's in the lead. She's got 6 points. And she's fighting another one of the winners from the first week of the regular season fights there for the women's lightweight. That's right. This is the only... Well, I shouldn't say that. Invicta does so much. But I haven't seen too many women lightweight fighting. So that's 155 pounds. That's even more than... like what we used to see Chris Cyborg compete at, which was 145 pounds. And Sarah Kaufman used to compete at bantamweight, but she's doing well over there, so good for her. And, I think everyone's looking for maybe a Sarah Kaufman, Kayla Harrison finale. But I watched the action the first week, and there was some good fighters. So I'm in, man. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. You've seen a lot of upsets. Look, there's been a lot of hype behind a guy like Aaron Pico, and, it didn't work out for him.
It's been a ton.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of hype for Kayla Harrison, but there's also a lot of pressure. So we'll see if she can handle it. She's an Olympian, for crying out loud, 2-time gold medalist for the United States. If anybody can do it, she can. But we'll see, because you have to not only win your fights, you have to remain healthy as well. And the winner gets $1 million. And, of course, Combate Americas, I think 2015 was their first show. And they are really, really trotting the globe, man. They were recently in Peru. They were recently on the border town of Hidalgo, Texas. They're heading to Fresno, California. I think they were in Tucson, Arizona. So they've been keeping busy. So co-founder of the UFC, Campbell McLaren, is their headman over there, headman in charge. But Mike Afromowitz, as you could tell by the titles that I was giving him, calling him by Senior VP, man, of Operations and Communications. That means
it's been around for a while.
Yeah, he makes some big decisions over there. And, of course, they have luchador Alberto Del Rio as their presidente.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to not just tomorrow, but next week. Let me tell you guys a couple things here. We have 1 minute left. Tomorrow, Goes and I will be here at the Mandalay Bay Sportsbook early. We're going to be here at 12 p.m. our time for the Women's World Cup quarterfinal matchup between the United States and France. That's why I'm wearing this USA shirt here. And we will be doing a sportscaster. So we'll be basically doing a watch-along for the game. And we invite you to go to sportscaster.com/MMA Junkie. Jessica I will be here with us as well. She's a former soccer player, and she's taken interest in the game. So we're going to have a blast. And then we'll be back a few hours later to do the regular MMA Junkie Radio show on Fight Nation Channel 156. Back to Sportscaster on Saturday for UFC on ESPN 3. So that's going to be a fun time as well. So make a note of that. Sportscaster.com/MMA Junkie. On July 4th, we will be off. So we'll be here 4 days next week. And we already have lined up Michael Chiesa, Jan Blachowicz, George Masvidal, Luke Rockhold, and many more. We got to get out of here. Thanks, Andre and Goes, for your efforts. And I'm George, and we're out of here. Be champions. I didn't make it.